Hello and welcome back to another amazing episode of Sports Talk with Dad. We got NFL playoffs. We got NFL coaches. We even have some MLB news today. But before we get into that, as always, my name is Kyle, and I cannot call this Sports Talk with Dad without the man sitting next to me, a man who was actually alive for both Bill Buckner and Leon Durham blowing a play at first base. My dad, Tim.
The one I gave you was so much better.
You did give me one, but I wanted to save it because we're not talking football right away.
You just hurt me.
Because we need to talk about that 84 team. There is a reason I am wearing this Cubs jersey today. The second best pinstripe jersey in Major League Baseball. That's right. Ahead of everybody else. I can't take credit over the Yankees.
No,
the Yankees look good. But this is the second best, and I'll stand by that.
I'd say Chicago has got the two best pinstripes, and the Yankees are just one, and the race is for number two.
Well, except for that blue pinstripe jersey, because that was the worst thing I've ever seen in my life.
For the Cubs or
for the Cubs?
The baby or the Robin's egg blue pinstripe in the 70s.
You have one of those jerseys.
I do,
and they're so bad.
No, but
so bad.
The one you're wearing and the White Sox, even though I can't stand the White Sox.
The White Sox are nice.
They have sharp uniforms.
They do. They do. Cubs and White Sox are 2 and 2A. They're right there. The Chicago in general has great pinstripes. But the reason I am wearing a Cubs jersey today is because the Cubs are honoring the 1984 MLB MVP with a statue outside Wrigley Field, Ryne Sandberg.
The guy your brother should have been named after, because he was going to be Ryan. Your mother actually stepped in and said, no, we're not naming him Ryan. He became Ryan. But
I mean, that's fair. My wife also turned down Bruce Wayne as a name for my son,
which is also
we went
fair.
With Grayson instead,
so,
which made me Batman. Like, he's
go.
Grayson, therefore I'm Batman.
That
I'm gonna
team,
take it.
That team was so much fun. And Sandberg getting 2 home runs at the end of the game, one off of Bruce Sutter, arguably the best reliever of that time.
Yeah.
Was just insane.
He had the game. I mean, he's arguably the greatest second baseman of all time.
He's in the conversation for sure.
I don't know who you'd really put above him, honestly, because if we're honest with each other here, the best second baseman get moved to shortstop. Ryne Sandberg's one of the few guys that had the range that he had that actually stayed at second base.
Joe Morgan is on that list.
That's true. I forgot.
Rod Carew back in the day. There's an old-time player that's on the list. But Ryne Sandberg and Joe Morgan in my lifetime, the two best by far second baseman.
I mean, you could say Ryne Sandberg was a 5-tool player in the infield, which you normally don't see.
No, you don't. But you can say that about both, again, Sandberg and Morgan.
You can.
They hit with power. They hit for speed. They steal the base when you need to. They just did it all. They had great gloves. They could turn a double play better than any people I've ever seen.
Yes, 100%. He is being honored. In his speech, it's not just Sandberg I want to talk about today. Because
I could talk about Sandberg all day. He was
the Cubs have a Hall of Fame. They're adding more members to the Hall of Fame this year. A question was brought up in that conference. What about Sammy Sosa?
Are you nuts? Are they nuts? Really?
And they said they're not ready to bring him into the family yet because there are fans that want him there and fans that don't. And from a fan that wants him there,
let's
bring home Sammy.
And from the fan who doesn't want him anywhere near the team ever again for a few reasons. Not only was he a cheater, he juiced, but don't forget, this is a guy who left the team
right
on the last game. And don't forget, this is also the guy that corked his bat.
Listen. If I ever have struggles with Sammy Sosa.
Oh, and by the way, he's also the guy that went to Congress, and even though he did every press conference that entire year in English, he goes to Congress and says, I don't speak English.
Yeah, it was a smart move. Let's be honest. I mean, that wasn't the dumbest thing to do.
Yes, it was.
Nobody handled that situation well.
No, they didn't.
We talked about it. We had a whole thing on Congress, and especially on Mark McGuire, who handled it much worse than Sammy. I don't mind Sammy Sosa going in front of Congress and pretending all of a sudden he couldn't speak English. Like, whatever. It's what his lawyers told him to do.
I feel like you and I pretending not that we don't speak English, which sometimes, granted,
I mean, that's not true because Spanish isn't our first language, and I don't know any other languages. So
the joke was that we don't even speak English well most of the time on the show.
That's true. So, that is very true. The struggle I have, and I don't mind, we've talked about the steroid era. I get why it was a problem. I understand where people come from, but the fact of the matter is the most exciting season in baseball history was 1998 with Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa. You can shake your head all you want. That is the most exciting season in baseball history. Baseball, for the first time in several years, and the last time in this time period, really, baseball was the number one sport being talked about at all times.
Yes, in your lifetime, I'll grant you that 98 season was amazing.
In your lifetime, it was the most exciting season in baseball.
Baseball wasn't, it never was about the race. I mean, it was exciting to watch Ricky Henderson break Lou Brock's record.
Sure.
It was exciting to watch the World Series between the Reds and Boston. That was probably the most exciting series of all time.
Listen,
not only my lifetime.
I didn't grow up in an era where Randy Johnson pulled out his tooth and then finished the game.
Don't forget about the bird.
The bird was preseason, but
Randy Johnson did that too.
It is coming up on the anniversary of like 30 years where Randy Johnson, in the middle of a game, right after pitching, pulled out his tooth, gave it to the trainer, and then struck out the side.
That's
Randy Johnson's my hero.
That's a man's man. That's a Nolan Ryan move.
Randy Johnson is my hero. I mean, even as a Cubs fan watching, I always watched Randy Johnson pitch. It was absolutely unbelievable. But Sammy Sosa was a great member of the Cubs organization. The issue is, and you're right, is that the corked bat, I remember watching that game. I used to watch all the games. I was baseball through and through for many, many years. Sure. And I remember watching that game. I remember you being in the kitchen when it happened, and all of a sudden I see the bat break, not knowing what a corked bat was, mind you. And I saw it break, and I remember going, uh-oh. And you're like, what? I said, something's wrong with Sosa's bat. And you come out, and you look, and you say, oh my God, he corked his bat. And then you explain to me what that meant, because I had no idea. And to this day, I don't know why you'd cork your bat. Look, it doesn't help you.
It doesn't help. The idea behind a cork bat or putting super balls in, that was in for a while, is that it's supposed to make the wood springier.
It doesn't. It just makes it more fragile.
Exactly.
It just makes it easier to break. And that was a situation. I knew something was wrong because he didn't hit it on the handle.
Right.
It didn't break on the handle. It broke above the handle. And I've never seen a bat break when it hits just below the center of the bat.
No, it's got to be corked.
Right. And so I knew something was wrong, and sure enough, and then the last game of the season, Sosa just leaves.
And that says more about the man himself. He was struggling.
2004.
Even if you're struggling, you stay and support your team, and you don't try to cheat your way.
I mean, listen, he walked out on Dusty Baker, so I don't blame him for that. But that's not the right thing to do. He knew his...
You mean Dusty Baker, the first ballot Hall of Famer? At this point, he is. You might as well accept it.
He is. Listen, he earned it. Good for him. I think he's been a great manager in the league. No, I don't.
I was going to say, come on.
Listen, he's earned it. Good for him. Good for Dusty. But I don't have to like the guy. He mismanaged the Cubs in 2003. He ruined Mark Pryor's career. He shortened Kerry Wood's career. And I don't have to like him.
And he blew the chance for the Cubs to get to the World Series.
Correct. So, but back to Sosa, that's the problem I have with the Cubs. And that's, I think, what most fans of the Cubs have an issue with Sammy about.
Yeah, there was no integrity.
And kids today, or younger people that weren't there for that cork bat incident, and especially weren't there for him walking out on the club, don't understand. And it's like, it's not the fact of the steroids. Nobody in the Cubs era has any issues with that. And you don't have to agree with me, but most Cubs fans don't. It was still the most exciting
it depends on
season in baseball.
The age
it does.
of the person.
Most people my age don't.
And look, I was wrapped up
what we do have problems with is that he walked out on the team.
It's the integrity of the man. And take out the 98. That was great. It was before anybody knew that guys were juicing. So it was very exciting. However, Sosa lost me forever because just the lack of integrity, the lack of team spirit, the lack of supporting your team when they're down. If you're a leader, you stick there and you try to work it out. And he didn't.
He did. He absolutely didn't. And that's the problem I have, and I get them not wanting him back in the family. But the issue I have more than anything is that, listen, this isn't the Ricketts decision to make. It's just not. It is. It's the Cubs fans' decision to make.
Ricketts are Cubs fans.
They're Cubs fans, and they're the owners of the club. But listen, there's never been a poll out there. There's never been questions asked. The Ricketts have just said Sosa is not allowed back in the Cubs family. No consideration to Cubs fans if we want to see Sosa back. And like it or not, if Sammy Sosa comes back to Chicago, I'll be there with tickets cheering him on.
It'll be very split. No, they should not let him back. And again, take out the roid issue. You know my feelings about Alex Rodriguez. I wish he wouldn't have juiced because he was the greatest shortstop to ever play the game. If he doesn't. But Sammy Sosa, it's not about the roids. It's about just giving up on your team and walking away. And for that's
where I understand that part of it. I'd still be there to cheer Sammy on. He was in a bad situation at that point, right? MLB has started to turn on him.
Rise above it.
Not everybody can. McGwire didn't rise above it, and nobody gives him shit for it.
He got back in baseball.
He got back in baseball as a hitting coach, which makes no sense since he was like a 230 hitter. But, I mean, yeah, rise above it. I get it. He didn't. A lot of people didn't. Barry Bonds definitely didn't rise above it.
Barry Bonds is a tool.
People still talk about him as one of the greatest players of all time. I don't know why Sosa can't be in that same conversation. I grew up a huge Sosa fans.
Here's the difference.
Yes, he let me down.
You want the difference? Barry Bonds was a Hall of Famer before he ever took it Juice 1. When he was in Pittsburgh, he was on track to be a Hall of Famer.
Sure.
That Barry Bonds, I would have put him in the Hall of Fame.
Right. However, always the argument.
Sosa wasn't there.
You'll never know that, though.
Yes, you will, because he had a sample before he became what he was. He was a punch and Judy hitter. He was not a 5-tool player. He was barely a 2-tool player.
Nobody ever accused Sammy Sosa of being a 5-tool player.
No, but all Sammy could do, he played the outfield a little bit, and he was a punch and Judy hitter.
And had the coolest flip-up sunglasses of all time.
Again, talk about making an image. Sosa made one.
Here's one for you. You want to talk about image. Trevor Bauer just became a free agent.
Yep.
You're an owner. You're a GM. You're a manager. Do you bring Trevor Bauer onto your team? He hasn't played in a couple of years, right? But he's all over YouTube and all that. You can still pitch.
I'm the guy who trades Ryan the Cheater Braun way back when he was still in the prime of his career after what he pulled. So no, I don't bring in Trevor Bauer.
Here's the thing. You said trade Ryan Braun before the steroid allegations ever came out. You said pick Prince Fielder over Ryan Braun.
Yep.
You said that a long time ago.
I said that as soon as he tried to ruin a guy's life, cut him, get rid of him. I don't care how much it hurts your team. Right. Make a statement. Get rid of him. He didn't belong in Milwaukee.
Here's my question for you, though. If Deshaun Watson gets a second chance after what he's accused of doing,
then right.
How can Trevor Bauer not get a second chance with what he's accused of doing? And this isn't saying what Trevor Bauer did was right.
Explain it. Some people may not remember or know it.
I don't even want to get into it.
You got to
at this point, but basically he was charged with some allegations where he didn't treat a woman very well. In a private situation.
In a private situation.
Just to get into that.
But he wasn't charged criminally.
And
never
denied anything.
And the court things are all behind him at this point.
They are. Man never denied anything. He stood up and took whatever came his way.
Yes.
Unlike Deshaun Watson.
Somebody's going to give him a shot. I hope. I think.
It's where I stand in the Michael Vick situation, right? Michael Vick did his time. He came out a better person. Now, we don't know that about Trevor Bauer. I don't know that. Only time will tell.
Well,
But you look at somebody like Michael Vick, who admitted to his crime. He did his time. Yes, that type of person deserves a second chance.
absolutely, because he actually, with what he's done, not only with pet safety and
Right.
just
You and I
solo
agree.
one on-
Michael Vick is one of our favorite players to ever
I
play
love
the game,
Michael Vick.
especially when it comes to second chances.
He earned it.
He earned every bit of it.
So Trevor Bauer, I want to know, okay, I'm supporting battered women's shelters.
Sure.
I'm doing the right things and saying, yes, what I did was wrong, accept the responsibility, which he did. Some team will give him a chance.
The issue I'm having is I'm seeing from people posting online even that these same people that defended Sean Watson in his situation are now saying Trevor Bauer doesn't deserve a second chance.
Well,
and you can't have it both ways. Like, if you're going to give Deshaun Watson a second chance, you have to give Trevor Bauer a second chance.
Yeah, that falls under hypocrisy knows no bounds.
Listen, it would if he hasn't changed, if he hasn't done anything, I'm with you. It's going to be hard to cheer for the guy. But if this guy learns from a mistake he made in a private situation, then
he has one of the best.
I don't see why I wouldn't get a second chance. He'll be signed by somebody.
He had one of the best arms in baseball at the time.
He still might. We haven't seen him in a couple years. I think the Dodgers did the right thing cutting ways with him. They had no choice. They paid out the rest of the contract. It was, especially in LA. I mean, you had to make that choice.
It was in the height of the cancel culture.
Yeah, and listen, Trevor Bauer is guilty of
stupidity.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Stupidity.
And anger management and whatever.
A lot of things. I mean, dude's clearly got problems. But again, if you are going to defend Deshaun Watson, you cannot sit here and say Trevor Bauer doesn't deserve to be signed by another team.
Can we talk about something better now?
Sure we can.
Okay.
We sure can. Let's get into Jim Harbaugh, who,
welcome back to Michigan.
Breaking news, is staying in Michigan, which I don't blame him. Who is he going to go to?
I think Denver was the one place. I think that was where he targeted.
Panthers seemed to be the team that everybody was talking about with him.
But I think the only one he talked to personally was Denver.
Well, and Denver's got the most money to shell out. Let's be honest. This is a new ownership that wants to win now.
They've got the team that should be winning now.
They made a mistake with Russell Wilson, clearly, but they're not willing to give up on a $250 million quarterback, which means you have to bring in a new coach. And Nathaniel Hackett and Russell Wilson were definitely not a good fit.
And, of course, that just means Nathaniel Hackett, who failed as a head coach, will come back to Green Bay and be with his buddy.
We're not at Green Bay yet.
Okay.
Our fans know us. We'll get to Green Bay.
We will get to Green Bay. Oh, are we going to get to Green Bay?
But him staying at Michigan, I think, is great. I think it speaks volumes for what he loves being there. He loves being in Michigan. He loves that he rebuilt that program. I think he just loves being a college coach.
He wants to be Bo Schembechler, Woody Hayes. You know, those guys that were there for a long time and built that rivalry. Harbaugh was in the heart of that, slightly after those guys, but he idolized Schembecker clearly.
Right.
I think he wants to get Michigan, of all the teams in the college playoffs, they got screwed. They got robbed. They should have won that. They did win that game. They called a touchdown. That was a touchdown. They're in the finals.
Yeah, I mean, Michigan also gave up a lot of points in that game. Michigan had a lot of opportunities to succeed in that game when they didn't. Same with Ohio State.
Ohio State, if Marvin Harrison doesn't go down.
When he wasn't targeted.
Right. Ohio State wins that game.
And they throw out the defender who
targeted
him. I mean, definition of targeting, and you don't. Never mind.
Homer. But I mean, it should have been a Michigan-Ohio State national finals.
It could have been.
Could have been, especially in the Georgia game. It could have been. But in the case of Michigan, it should have been. Harbaugh still has work to do at Michigan, and he wants to build them into a power. He sees the fact that now Fickle is there, Matt Rule is there. You've got USC and UCLA coming in. The Big Ten is going to be a glamour conference, and he wants to be the king of that conference.
I tell you right now, if he'd have won a national championship with Michigan this year, he gone.
Oh, I think he would have been too.
I think he wants to be one of those coaches that wins a national championship and a Super Bowl. I think it still hurts him that he didn't win that Super Bowl with the 49ers. And who knows if they do. They were getting their momentum back when all of a sudden magically the lights went out. They were starting to make their run. So who knows if the lights don't go out if he doesn't win that Super Bowl.
And
I think he wants to be one of those coaches that has proven, hey, I can win in the NFL and I can win in college, which he has. I mean, he's proven that, which is why he's such a hot commodity in both places.
Sure. Parents had those lights turned off. They always liked John better.
That's fair. I mean, that's proof right there. Somebody turned those things off.
They did. Harbaugh made the right move, though, I think, in this case.
I do too.
The teams that were available, none of them seemed to be a good fit.
And listen, as much money as Denver can come and offer him to coach, Michigan has boosters that are paying that guy under the table. I mean, Michigan came up with money and said, hey,
sure,
we want you to stay here. And let's be honest, I do think Jim Harbaugh is a great guy. And I think it was too hard for him to look at those kids he recruited and said, I'm out. I think in Stanford it was a little bit different because the team he had built was all graduating and moving on at that point. He's still got a lot of kids there that he's brought in. He made a lot of promises to. And I think that's hard to walk away from.
I don't think Harbaugh liked being the second choice of the Broncos either, because clearly they want Sean Payton.
Well, and there's another one to get into here, because Sean Payton not only interviewed with Denver, and I don't think he's officially interviewed with Denver. He's interviewed with the Texans officially. The Panthers have talked to him. The Broncos have talked to him.
Panthers are talking to him in New York later this week, and he's, I think, going to Denver today or tomorrow to meet with them.
Texans are going to give him all the power he wants. Let's be honest. I mean, the Texans did bring in a new GM at this point, but Sean Payton's going to have all the power he wants to build a team that he wants. And I think them signing a new GM is a sign that Sean Payton's not going there, because I don't think he's going to a situation where he doesn't get both coach and GM, at least where he doesn't have say over his own roster.
Tell you what, and I'm going to anger a lot of people right now, Mike Murphy should be making a call to Sean Payton and giving him the ultimate power in Green Bay, because that's the kind of coach the Packers need, because just rerunning what they did last year is going to make for a pathetic year in 2023, even if they make the playoffs, and they may.
Well, let's be honest. Matt LaFleur made a comment about running it back and bringing back Joe Barry. The moment he said that is the moment he should have been fired. That is the exact moment Matt LaFleur should have been fired. Clearly, this guy has no idea what the hell he's doing. Clearly, this guy has no balls at all.
He's going to bring in Nathaniel Hackett or his brother, so he has his buddies.
His brother's on the market after being fired by the Jets. Nathaniel Hackett is out there. I wouldn't be surprised if both of those guys ended up coming back.
And that, honestly, that's the reason that Goody needs to be fired. It's all piles one on top of the other.
Gutekunst was a bad hire to begin with. We obviously need to reset after Ted Thompson came in completely, and it didn't happen when you brought in Goody. I'd love to see Elliott Wolf come back if you want to bring somebody back in the family, because let's be honest, we need somebody who's going to make some move to win now. We have a Hall of Fame quarterback that, for whatever reason, by the way, Packer fans love to hate on. I don't understand it. It makes no sense to me. We have a quarterback in Green Bay that was sitting at 4-8 with a broken thumb, zero reason to play.
And by the way, all the fans are going, if he's got a broken thumb, why isn't he sitting down? Even though they were cheering the guy before Rodgers,
El Favre,
they're doing the same thing.
Right. No reason to play. How many quarterbacks in that situation where a GM's given him nothing? He let his best weapon walk away because he didn't sign him the year before. Has given him nothing except Sammy Watkins in the offseason.
Which was pathetic at best.
And he says, no, I'm going to continue to play for this team. I love Green Bay. And as long as we are not mathematically out of it, I am going to play. And people crucified him for it. Dude.
Aaron Rodgers should be the guy that everybody's going, thank God he's a Packer.
What more do you want from your quarterback? Like, no, I don't have chemistry with these guys. I don't know what the hell's going on with this organization. This organization just completely let me down in the offseason.
But I love being a Packer.
But I'm still going to play because I love being a Packer. I love the history of the Green Bay Packers, and I'm going to win for these fans. And yet these fans treat him like shit. Come on, guys. I don't understand where this is coming from. What more do you want from a player? You talk about going to Favre, who people loved, which, again, I don't understand, because Favre would wait until training camp to make a decision. Aaron Rodgers lets you know before free agency to let, by the way, the GM know, hey, I'm staying here. Let's run for a Super Bowl, make some moves. And he doesn't. Not only do you have a plan A if Rodgers leaves, but you don't have a plan B to make moves to make a run for a Super Bowl. No, we're going to run with rookie wide receivers, and that should be enough for us.
And wide receivers, by the way, that did not know the playbook going into the training camp. And everybody's crucifying Rodgers. Why didn't you bring him out and work with him? Learn the freaking playbook, and then I'll bring you out.
Again, nobody crucified Tom Brady, who missed 2 weeks of training camp.
Took off every Wednesday and Thursday during the week, I believe.
Correct. Nobody said anything about Favre, who didn't even come back his final year till 2 weeks into training camp. We were literally running with Rodgers as our number one quarterback at that point because Favre hadn't made a decision. And then a week in, all of a sudden, he's ready to go. We also had rookie receivers. We just got Jordy Nelson. We just got Randall Cobb. Well, I don't think Randall Cobb was there at that point.
No, Cobb came the year after.
But we had Greg Jennings, who was still pretty new at that point. And Favre's not there. And nobody says a word. I don't understand it. I don't get it. To this day, Favre is a god and Rodgers is an underling. And I hate them all. Like, Favre was great. Favre was awesome. But to say Rodgers isn't a better example, to say Rodgers isn't exactly what Bart Starr was to the Green Bay Packers is asinine.
People get on Rodgers because he's a California cool kid. But you know what? He also took the time to learn the history of the Green Bay Packers,
Correct.
knows it better than anybody.
Correct.
Bart Starr took him under his wing.
Correct.
And made him, in a lot of ways, made him what Rodgers turned out to be. He's a two-time back-to-back MVP who came in, as you said, came in this year, played with a broken thumb, and still got us to within a game. And I blame that game on the defensive coordinator again because they went back to his own defense instead of that smothering man-to-man that they did against the Vikings. Give Rodgers a break. Play here as long as you can, Aaron. Please. We want you.
Love to have here.
Yeah.
I don't want to see him go. Do I think Jordan Love is the next Hall of Fame quarterback of Green Bay Packers? 100%. Do you need to make a decision to move on from Rodgers at some point? 100%.
Not this year.
But you also need to make a decision at some point where you need to go all in and win. But here's my biggest issue when it comes to the Green Bay Packers management, and it's been proven this year, and it's been proven time and time again, is that the Packers management would rather go 8-8 or 9-8 or 8-9 at this point, but 8-8 when it was 16 games, than go all in and win a Super Bowl and be bad. Why? Because you're giving fans hope, so they pay attention. And you're giving fans the idea that, hey, we still have a chance to win, come and buy season tickets, rather than do what the Rams did and go all in, win a Super Bowl, and then deal with the consequences afterwards. Well, we have a Hall of Fame quarterback. It's time to go all in. It's time to go in and win a Super Bowl now, and we let Rodgers down. And that upsets me. It really does. As fans, we let Rodgers down. Management let Rodgers down. You don't have to like him as his personality. I don't care what he's like off the field. I don't. What I care about as a fan is the heart and work and effort he gives on the field every single Sunday. And I dare you to tell me one player in the NFL that works harder than he does.
And oh, by the way, Rodgers doesn't have a separate office in Lambeau Field. He's in the locker room with the guys. Everybody in the locker room seems to like him.
He's a leader.
Guaranteed there's some guys who don't like Aaron Rodgers. Fine. That happens, and it's a locker room.
But you know what doesn't get said about Aaron Rodgers? Nobody says he's not a competitor.
No.
Nobody says he doesn't want to win. Nobody says he doesn't give it his all. Nobody says he doesn't work his ass off every single day.
You know what else I'm tired about when I talk to Packer fans? Well, they really we don't have the kind of money that other teams do. The Packers are the second richest franchise in all of football. They've got the money. They've got the money. They've got the money. Spend it. Keep your players. Rework the salary cap. You know a way to do it. And for the love of God, bring back Aaron Jones. And you said it the other day, go back to an I set where you've got Dylan lead blocking for Jones.
I'll never understand why A.J. Dillon is not a fullback in the Green Bay Packers offense. I will never understand. And you want to look at Packer history when it worked. I mean, look at Jim Taylor and Paul Hornung. Jim Taylor was a fullback. Paul Hornung was a running back. And guess what? Both of them had 1,000-yard seasons. A.J. Dillon is so big. What bugs me with Aaron Jones, when we do that, when we don't have a fullback in our system, and I don't want to hear the new NFL BS because it swings back. But I'm tired of seeing Aaron Jones getting beat by one linebacker that goes unblocked when we could have just had a fullback sitting there in I formation that takes out that linebacker, and all of a sudden Aaron Jones is 20 more yards down the field.
And what happens if you've got both of those in the backfield and you're at the goal line or inside the 20? They don't know which one to cover. Dillon is all of a sudden available to run it through.
Right.
John Kuhn scored a fair amount of touchdowns in the red zone.
He did.
And he was a fullback. It's not that long ago that happened.
You want to know why the Packers have had running backs that have 1,000-yard seasons? You want to know why Eddie Lacy had those years? Because we had a fullback. You want to know why Dorsey Levens had those years? Edgar Bennett? Because we had a fullback. They make that extra block. It gives you not only comfort in that, but they're also able to swing out. A fullback's coming back in the NFL, and you have a chance to use A.J. Dillon in that position, and you need to do it. You don't see running backs as big as him, but what you do see is fullbacks as big as him. Mike Allstott, another perfect example. You want to talk about a guy that scored, really vultured several touchdowns from Warwick Dunn in goal line situations. I mean, that was Mike Allstott. Big guy, I dare you to stop me. You're trying to turn what they're doing to A.J. Dillon almost reminds me of what happened to Ron Dane.
Yeah, it's the same thing where the Giants tried to make Ron Dane a scat back like Aaron Jones instead of just punching him up the middle all the time.
Make A.J. Dillon a fullback, put him in the weight room, make him 250 pounds, and just go nuts with him.
And every time he stops moving his legs,
Grayson is sick and tired of me hearing about it because he'll be in the backyard and we'll be playing football. And I yell at him all the time, don't move your legs. And when we're watching Packer game, I look at him, I said, that's why you don't stop moving your legs. You've been 5 more yards down the field. I mean, keep moving your legs, dude. But it's one of those things where you need to keep moving forward. You're too big. Plow people over. He should be an Earl Campbell. Not anybody else.
And you know the other part of that? These are two really, really good guys.
They
are in the community and work with the community. Why you don't want both those guys back again to ride them for the rest of their career? You can pay Aaron Jones. There's the money's available. Make it happen. He's too important, not only to the Packers, but to the community.
Yeah, well, A.J. Dillon's one of the best people we have in Green Bay. I mean, specifically what happened with the police officer in Green Bay. Most people wouldn't have handled it as well as he did. He's a great person. He's great for the community. So is Aaron Jones. Bring them both back. Turn A.J. Dillon into a fullback. And life will be better, but unfortunately, we don't have a coach right now or a GM that knows what the hell they're doing that is able to use these situations wisely.
Which means, in my mind, Mark Murphy, pick up the phone, pick up the phone, call Sean Payton, have the balls that McIntosh did in Madison, and make the hard choice. And go and get a coach who's going to shake things up and change the dynamic of your team right now.
Right now.
And Sean Payton, make no mistake, Aaron Rodgers is going to shut up and play ball if Sean Payton is in there.
Right. He 100% will. Aaron Rodgers has 3 more years left in his career. I mean, people forget, like everybody's saying Aaron Rodgers had a bad year this year. Yeah, for Aaron Rodgers. For half the guys in this league, that's a great year for him.
And by the way, I've also talked to Packer fans and it's driven me nuts. They're going, well, Sean Payton would never come to Green Bay. Really?
Bullshit.
Luke Fickell would never come to Madison, would he? They did.
He'll go to Ohio State in no time.
No, he won't. He's going to build a monster in Madison. Ohio State is going to be the nuts they are.
Like Ryan Day. I would love to see Ryan Day stay, but if we can keep Luke Fickell out of Wisconsin and bring him back to Ohio State, do it.
I'm going to have you singing on Wisconsin before long.
No, you will not.
That will
not
be
one bit.
That will be the bet when they play each other. But I'm saying,
Packers need to clean
getting
house,
back,
man.
the Packers need to clean house, and they need to make a statement higher. Don't go and get a coordinator. The guy from the Lions is a lead candidate for a lot of jobs, but we don't need them. We need somebody who, and by the way, Sean Payton's the one guy I would turn over the GM and the coaching duties to because he's smart enough to manage it.
Yeah. And he'll probably make, draft picks that stay on the team more than 2 years, which would be awesome. Speaking of draft picks, obviously the Rams sent a lot of draft picks away to the Detroit Lions. Didn't have a great season this year. Matt Stafford didn't have a great year, but they did decide to bring Matt Stafford back. McVay is back. You have Baker Mayfield on that team.
If I'm Baker, I'm staying. If I'm Baker, I'm staying. Because you're the heir apparent.
You can get a starting job. Or can you get a starting job? I mean, Baker Mayfield went to Carolina and didn't do well. I don't think Carolina was a very good team. I don't think that was as much his fault as it was obviously a coach that wasn't doing too great and a team that was hyped up way more than it should have been.
Sure. Stafford is fragile. He's older. McVay is a coach that obviously works well with you. You're in L.A. You need to stay in L.A. and enjoy the good situation you've got right now rather than going to an unknown in wherever. Houston, Seattle. Seattle, I think, brings back Geno Smith unless they draft, and they're going to draft one.
They'll have somebody ready behind Geno, but I think you can make another season with Geno Smith. He's not going to bring you to the promised land, but he'll keep you. It depends how close you think you are in Seattle. I mean, if you still think you have a couple pieces to bring in Seattle, you're going to stick with Geno for another year or two. But if you think you're ready to win now, you need to upgrade that quarterback situation. Baker proved in Cleveland that he was not mature enough to take the reins of an NFL franchise. The fact of that there's a highlight out there where he looks at Odell and Jarvis Landry after he throws a touchdown to somebody else and says, "Be patient, boys." That shows you right there. He was not mature enough to handle that situation. You don't talk to Pro Bowl wide receivers like that.
But you know what you do in ball. You know what you do in LA? You've got a great coach. You shut up and just play the game, which is what he did.
You got a great coach, and you have Matthew Stafford to sit behind. And I think it was just a situation with Baker where he could have really used a veteran presence like an Aaron Rodgers, like a Matthew Stafford, like a number of these guys sitting out there. Tom Brady would have been good for him, where he just sits there, listens, and learns because he wasn't ready for that assignment. I still don't think he's ready for that type of assignment, but sitting behind Matt Stafford for a year or two is going to get him ready.
Most guys aren't ready just coming out of college. I know they rush him, but
there's one quarterback that's proven he was ready right out of college, and that's Trevor Lawrence.
And he proved it last weekend in the playoffs. That was just an unbelievable game. Talk
about ice in your veins.
Ice in your veins, and a coach who knows how to quietly motivate your team. There wasn't a lot of screaming in the locker room at halftime. It was just, guys, we're not out of this.
Right.
And they weren't. And Trevor Lawrence is a stud.
4 interceptions in the first half, comes back as one of the greatest second halves in playoff history. The Jaguars need to do Trevor Lawrence a favor and get the hell out of Jacksonville.
Well,
they need to move. You have what is projected to be a Hall of Fame quarterback. I mean, that kid has been a Hall of Famer since he was in high school. I mean, we haven't seen something like this since Andrew Luck, who was just like, yes, that's a Hall of Fame quarterback right there. He has the attitude. He has the attributes. He has the genetics. He has
the staying power,
which
the Andrew Luck didn't have. I think this kid wants to play and be the next Brady or
Andrew
Rodgers.
Luck didn't have the staying power because the Colts just refused to give him an offensive line that protects him. Luckily, Jacksonville's been a little bit smarter than that.
He didn't play for the Packers, did he?
Who?
Andrew Luck. No offensive line, no help.
Packers have an offensive line. It's just a really old one, and they're not updating.
Sorry, that was a cheap shot. But yes, Trevor, and it was certainly the game of the weekend, as far as I'm concerned.
I turned it off.
I know.
And then turned it on in the fourth quarter, and I was like, what is happening right now?
I'm texting you going, are you watching this? I'm getting no response. I'm thinking, oh, he fell asleep.
I went to bed. Woke up because the dog woke me up. I see your text messages, run downstairs, and I'm like, what is happening right now?
I'm like, this has been unbelievable. It was great.
Trevor Lawrence is going to be the best quarterback in the NFL very, very soon. Sooner rather than later. Again, this is Trevor Lawrence's rookie year. Last year doesn't count. That was a debacle. This is his rookie year, and he's showing why he was the number 1 overall pick.
Sure.
The Jaguars need to move.
Well, where
you can't leave him in Jacksonville. You can't.
Where are you going to move to?
San Antonio?
It's going to be the same as they have in Jacksonville.
No. People care about professional sports in San Antonio. Look how they support the Spurs for all those years. You're telling me those fans wouldn't support an NFL team? Austin is the fastest growing city in the United States right now. You're telling me they couldn't support a team with all the major corporations are there? Jacksonville's a dying town. Jacksonville's been dying since before they got the Jaguars.
You lived there. I didn't. I mean,
It's the smallest metropolitan area in the United States. It has a smaller metropolitan area than Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
There was a proposal not long ago where they were going to split their games between Jacksonville and Orlando.
As soon as that conversation was happening, that's your sign you need to move. I mean, you can move them to Toronto if you want to. I don't think it's a good idea.
No.
You can move them to Mexico City if you wanted to. Again, don't think it's a good idea. I think San Antonio is a great place. Move them to St. Louis.
That would be fine, too.
St. Louis is a great sports town.
The best baseball town in this country.
The only reason the Rams moved was because it was a fight over a new stadium.
And an owner
who didn't want to be there. Let's be honest. The owner
was a tool.
Owner wasn't willing to negotiate with the city. He had already bought the land. He was moving the team to L.A. That's why he lost that lawsuit as bad as he did. St. Louis would be a great place for them to go. You need to put him in a place where he can be in prime time, where you don't have a stadium where you needed to build a pool just to convince people to come to town, where you're not blocking off half of your stadium even during playoff games just to get on to avoid blackouts. You have too good of a quarterback. You need to get out of Jacksonville for the sake of this kid.
And you've got a great coach. But what do you do if you're our favorite team? The guys in the purple, the guys who've had this happen before, the Minnesota Vikings. What do you do with Cousins?
I'm not going to say I wasn't pretty excited to see the Vikings lose.
I predicted the Giants win.
A lot of people did. The Vikings were on a downward turn. I have friends that are Vikings fans, and I feel bad for them a little bit. Yeah, just a little bit. The Vikings do have some of the coolest helmets in the NFL, if we're being honest. The matte helmets. I love the matte finish on the Vikings helmet. It looks super cool.
I won't even go into what the horns look like.
The horns look like something. But I even forgot where I was. You just took me away.
I think the Vikings have to look. Kirk Cousins got them as far as Kirk Cousins is going to take them.
Well, here's the thing, though. Kirk Cousins is a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. He has been for the last few years. Not on prime time, but if you take him off prime time, he's been one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL. You have a top 10 quarterback.
Wait a minute. Okay, let's take a look at something. Let's just take a look at the Northern Division. Would you take Cousins over Aaron Rodgers?
No.
Would you take him over Goff?
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't.
I would.
Would you take him over Fields?
Yeah.
I don't think I would either. I think he's the fourth best quarterback in the conference or in the division, only for this reason. Fields is still got a lot of upside.
Fields has a ton of upside. I'll give you that one. Goff is in a great system for him right now.
Correct. And he's got a great coach with it. And this is a first-year coach in Minnesota. They're going to work with him. The Lions, while they didn't make the playoffs, were as good as I thought they'd be. And I thought they were real close to getting in the playoffs.
They were.
So if I'm the Vikings, you got to find a way to get Cousins some confidence to get him. And this Vikings team reminded me of the 2014 Packer team. They were just on a downward cycle towards the playoffs.
Correct.
And the same thing happened. They lost in the first round. They've got a good team.
They have a very good team. Justin Jefferson's the best receiver in all of football right now.
He's
second best. I mean, Devontae Adams, even for a down year, still put up, 1,500 yards and however many touchdowns. Justin Jefferson's the most exciting player to be on a football field by far.
If I'm Green Bay, I'm going to get him.
Justin Jefferson just said he wants to play for a winning team. Why would you go to Green Bay? Why would you go to a team that's okay being mediocre? Yeah, that's not a place I would go. Well, here's a theory for you. You want to make a splash move? You could argue their defense sucks. Like, that's a big problem, too, with the Vikings. Their defense is absolutely terrible. But in every other aspect, these guys are a quarterback away from really making a run.
They've got
another Green Bay quarterback go to purple and gold.
I think the Packers are closer than you think. I don't think they're that far away. I think the
Packers are very close. We have the talent. We don't have the leadership and coaches.
So they're going to run it back with Cousins, to use the Packer line.
They're planning on
think they
sticking
have
with
to.
Cousins.
I think they have to.
Who else can you replace him with that's going to be better than Cousins in this league? Let's be honest. Let 100% be honest. Are you going to replace Kirk Cousins with Derek Carr? Does that get you any closer?
Not Baker Mayfield either.
Baker Mayfield doesn't get you any closer.
No.
Justin Fields doesn't get you any closer than Kirk Cousins. Jared Goff doesn't get you any closer than Kirk Cousins.
I'm not sure about the Justin Fields. If he gets in with a good coach that's going to use him correctly, I think Justin Fields can be one of the most dynamic quarterbacks in the league.
You know me, Ohio State fan. I think Justin Fields is amazing, and I do think he's going to rot in Chicago, unfortunately, and they're going to ruin him.
They're going to draft C.J. Stroud.
Oh. God, no. No. But look at the other quarterbacks. Would they be better off with Aaron Rodgers? Yeah. Would they be better off with Tom Brady right now?
Yeah. All day long. You put Tom Brady on that team and it's a Super Bowl team.
Would they be better off with Matthew Stafford?
Yes.
Right now?
Yeah.
With Stafford being hurt the way that he is?
If Stafford is healthy, yes. All day long, he could take the Vikings to the Super Bowl.
Would you rather have Geno Smith over Kirk Cousins?
No.
I might.
Would I take Russell Wilson over Kirk Cousins? Over the span of his career, yes.
Right, we're talking next year. We're talking next year.
I'd still take Wilson over Cousins. I think this was an aberration.
I don't know if I would. Kirk Cousins has proven to be a leader of that team in a lot of ways.
He is. I said it when he came out of Michigan State. He was a nice quarterback who's going to have a long career, and he has.
I mean, you take out the obvious ones with Trevor Lawrence. You take out Patrick Mahomes. You take out Josh Allen. You take out Aaron Rodgers. You take out Tom Brady. I don't see a quarterback in the league.
Joe Burrow.
Joe Burrow. Thank you. Take out Joe Burrow. I don't know a quarterback in the league that I would say is going to do better in Minnesota than Kirk Cousins has done.
Dak Prescott? Yes. Oh, come on. All day long. Dak Prescott is a great quarterback. Much more dynamic than Kirk Cousins is.
I mean, great is a strong word.
Look, if he plays the rest of the playoffs the way he did last night.
He looked great last night.
He looked great last night. And kudos. Here's another thing. By the way, you know I'm not a Cowboys fan, but those sweatshirts that Mike McCarthy wore last night
was unbelievable.
The original Dallas Cowboy logo.
If I have to own a sweatshirt for the Cowboys and wear it, I would wear that all day long. I'm going to get into the Cowboys, though, but I want to get back to this just to drill in this point.
I thought we had drilled them enough.
I don't know if Dak Prescott would do better in Minnesota. I really don't. I don't think it. Let me ask you this. Are there more than 9 quarterbacks in the NFL right now or draft picks coming in?
He's in the top 15.
Okay. So you're telling me there's more than 9 quarterbacks that you think would do better on the Vikings than Kirk Cousins?
Let me ask you this. If you put Kirk Cousins on that Dallas team and put Dak Prescott on that Minnesota team, Minnesota wins that game. And Dallas might win that game. I mean, you've got
possible.
You've got all of them in the AFC. You named them. You've got Mahomes. You've got Allen. You've got Burrow. You've got
the pendulum has switched. The better quarterbacks are officially in the AFC.
You've got Lawrence. Who else am I missing in the AFC?
Those are the big ones.
Those are the big ones. You got Brady still. He's still playing. You put him on the Vikings, you're going to be better. You got Rodgers, you're going to be better. Stafford, if he's healthy, is going to be better.
8.
Russell Wilson would be better.
I don't agree with that
and
at all.
I
don't agree with Stafford either. I don't. Not with his injuries now.
I said
you can't think about his career. You have to think about right now.
Yeah, and I would make that trade right now. I take Stafford. I take Jared Goff, and I would take Fields for sure, because Fields is much more upside.
We're not talking about upside. We're talking about next year.
And then I look at what's coming in. I take C.J. Stroud over Kirk Cousins all day long.
I mean, I'm biased. Like, I can't answer that question.
I'm not even an Ohio State fan, but that kid's amazing.
He's a really good player.
Yeah.
I don't agree with all those. I don't think
I take Kenny Pickett over Kirk Cousins.
Come on.
Yes.
Whopper Jr. hands does not do any better
he's playing
Minnesota.
Inside. Yes, he does, because he's in a dome all year long.
No.
Yes.
No.
He's got the it factor. I would absolutely take him. I'd also take Daniel Jones.
That's an interesting case. Now, before we get into the Cowboy game from Monday night, let's get into Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones just made himself $60 to $75 million guaranteed.
Yes. Oh, the other one I'd take would be Lamar Jackson. But getting back to Daniel Jones, he looked calm. He looked cool. He looked collected. He ran that team. He played within the offense, and he won the game.
For the first time in Daniel Jones' career, he had that look in his eye where he was not going to lose that game.
No, you could see at the end of the game on the sideline.
He had that look in his eye, and I can't say he's had that in his career yet.
Been a great match with his new coach.
He's the coach of the year. I mean, how do you give it to anybody else? He is the coach of the year. He turned around that team with these same players. These same exact players. He went from a top 10 draft pick to possibly an NFC favorite to be the NFC champion.
Oh, and the other one I would take, we forgot, Jalen Hurts.
Jalen Hurts would have done really good.
He would have been really good on Minnesota.
That's fair.
But getting back to this, you had me going through all the teams in the league, and it's like, oh my God, how could we forget him?
Hold on. Before we get on to Daniel Jones.
Oh my God, you haven't done that yet.
I haven't done that yet. You let us know if you think there are 10 quarterbacks in the league that would have done better this year with Kirk Cousins with the Minnesota Vikings. Speaking of us not being able to use English language, and while you're down there, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you get to enjoy this show as much as we enjoy making it. The question is can Daniel Jones continue this? The Giants are on a magic run, but we've seen this with the Giants how many times? Giants did this with Phil Simms. Giants have done this with Eli Manning. Giants have done this continuously with quarterbacks that are borderline Hall of Fame quarterbacks.
Eli Manning's a Hall of Fame quarterback.
He is.
Phil Simms probably should be.
Phil Simms is a Hall of Fame quarterback.
No, he's not in it.
Phil Simms is in the Hall of Fame?
Nope. He's not.
I'm looking this up.
God.
You give your case for Daniel Jones.
Daniel Jones plays within the system. He is another Giants quarterback who is just the guy who can stir the drink and get the ball to his playmakers. I'm sorry, Dad. You were right. I was wrong.
I'm not going to allow that to be a soundbite. So,
come on.
Phil Simms, you were correct in saying Phil Simms was not in the Hall.
Dad, you were right, and I was wrong.
Daniel Jones has the look in his eye, though, of a champion right now. He really does. But again, we've seen that look from Eli Manning, and then he comes back the next year, and he's not the same quarterback. The Giants have a way of getting on these magical runs where nobody can stop them, and they go on to win Super Bowls. I'm not saying the Giants are going to win the Super Bowl this year, but the question is, you have big decisions to make next year. You have to decide if you're going to bring back Saquon Barkley. You have to decide if you're going to re-sign Daniel Jones. You have a lot of players on that team that are on one-year contracts.
Wait a minute. Who else are you going to get besides Daniel Jones at this point?
Listen, you have to ride with him at this point.
You have to, and I think
he is your quarterback. You can still use the fifth-year option on him, but I think you're going to give him an extension. He's going to demand an extension, which he should. You have to decide on Saquon Barkley. I think you 100% bring him back.
Do you think the Giants can beat Philadelphia this weekend?
I do. I do too. Philadelphia, again, talking about a team that's been on a downward trend. The Giants are getting hot. They have the eye of the tiger. They are getting hot at the right time. They're a dangerous, dangerous team.
I'll make this prediction right now. The winner of the Dallas-San Francisco game is the NFC team in the Super Bowl.
I mean, it's a good prediction. Here's transitioning from that. Let's talk about the Cowboys here, because I'm going to tell you one thing that I was extremely impressed with on Monday night. I haven't seen that look in Mike McCarthy's eye since the 2015 NFC Championship against Seattle. Listen, that was the game that broke Mike McCarthy. That was the game that broke Aaron Rodgers. That was the game that broke that era of the Green Bay Packers. Aaron Rodgers has not been the same quarterback since then. Mike McCarthy was not the same coach since then. And they just never... Aaron Rodgers blamed Mike McCarthy for that loss.
It wasn't his fault.
And that got into his head.
It was the special teams coach on that team. In that situation, you take out whoever you're going to take out, but you don't leave that guy in... I can't remember his name. But anyways, McCarthy...
Listen, A.J. Hawk had a blown coverage on a fake field goal. And then obviously the onside kick.
McCarthy is a really, really good coach.
He's a really good coach.
Super Bowl champion.
He's a good coach. He's a borderline Hall of Fame coach. If he wins with Dallas, he's going to the Hall of Fame for sure. This is the first time Dallas has been to back-to-back playoffs since Jimmy Johnson was there.
Jimmy Johnson or Tuna? Bill Parcells.
No, they never went back-to-back with Bill Parcells. This is the first time. You got to remember, Parcells wasn't there very long.
Well, neither was Jimmy Johnson.
But Jimmy Johnson went to back-to-back playoffs.
Was he still the coach in 88, 89?
Who? Jimmy Johnson?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Jimmy Johnson?
I don't think he was.
That's when Jimmy Johnson took over as the coach.
No, he took over in. Oh, reel it back. I read that as 98, 99. Sorry. You're right. 88, 89. He was that guy. Wow. That was an elder moment. Sorry.
I wasn't even alive yet, and I knew that answer.
You were right. I was wrong. I apologize.
See, now I have the soundbite. This is why I don't say this stuff out loud.
Whatever. McCarthy never gets credit for being the good coach that he is. He put this team together. They're playing really well. Now, they've had their ups and downs, as every McCarthy team does. But there was a different look absolutely in his eye
last year. McCarthy was the same McCarthy we saw in 16-17 with the Green Bay Packers, 18, whenever last year he was there. It was the same guy that we saw. This playoffs, even watching him at the last little bit I saw it when a Cowboy player went down, he's sitting there watching the Cowboy player. He was not thinking about that injury that was on the field. He was thinking about, what are we going to do next? What's the next chess piece we need to put in next? And then when he came to the sideline, he tapped him on the shoulder saying, hey, you good? Checked on his player. But his mind was running saying, what do we need to do? And plus, what you didn't see from Mike McCarthy in that Cowboys game was someone who was just worried about getting done with the game when they had the lead. That was the most impressive thing. They were on the 10-yard line.
He was still trying to score.
And they took a shot down the field. I have not seen that Mike McCarthy since the 2015 Green Bay Packers.
Well, and what impressed me was the fact that he had Dak so ready to play last night. I haven't seen that Dak Prescott in years.
If ever.
Yeah, he was just ready to go. He was in charge of that team, and they destroyed Tampa Bay, even missing 4 extra points. By the way, they're bringing that kid back. And on another topic...
Well, this is Mike McCarthy, who stuck with Mason Crosby after the 2012 season.
He did, and thank God he did. Mason Crosby, speaking of running back, I think Packers should bring him back. But McCarthy's a great coach. And by the way, the player that was injured at the end of the game, I don't know if you were still watching at that point.
The wide receiver for Tampa Bay, who started off. Yeah.
It was a nasty bad hit.
I was watching the game right after that.
That was a bad hit, and fortunately, he's got full movement in his extremities. But he tried to get up, and he went back down and thinking, not again. But
that was a scary injury. That was whiplash, is what that was.
That was.
But they finished the game.
And they're going to play their games in their home stadium, unlike Kansas City, which is getting screwed for no apparent reason.
I'm still not happy about that.
I'm not either.
I'm still not happy about that.
Okay.
There's no question of not finishing that game.
No.
I don't get it, man. I
don't either.
I don't get it. But we do have a Cowboys team that is also getting hot at the right time. And here's where the Cowboys get screwed a little bit here. Is the 49ers were the only team to play on Saturday. And they've had a lot of rest. And they played against a team that was not ready for what the 49ers had to bring. Seattle had a bad game. Geno Smith had a better second half than a first half, but that was just not the best performance by Seattle in that game. Dallas is coming off of a very, very physical game on Monday night.
I think
they're on the road.
It's going to play to their advantage. They're ready. They'll get it turned around. They're going against a rookie quarterback who, for all of everything that was ever said about Purdy, that kid is calm and collected. He's still a rookie, though. But I don't blame San Francisco. I think he's your quarterback next season. I think Trey Lance is gone. And
hey, we're going to get into that. You're ahead of the game. I don't think that. I think Dallas is tired. I think they're beat up. I think they look good. But going from Tampa Bay, because don't forget, Dallas now has to fly right away from Tampa Bay to San Francisco.
So they've got private jets.
I know they do, but that's still a big time difference. You have practice.
They'll fly to
San
Dallas
Francisco's been a
first.
huge. That's what I hate about the Monday night game is this specific situation. They're going to play Saturday. You just gave San Francisco a whole week's rest. You're forcing Dallas now to play in 5 days.
Dallas should never have been expected. That game should have been on Sunday, and it should have been the late game on Sunday.
It should have been. You shouldn't play playoff games on Monday night. I didn't like that from the word go. I don't like it now because you do have a Dallas team that's getting hot that is given a very unfair advantage or a very unfair disadvantage against a San Francisco team that really didn't have to play that hard.
That's just the luck of the draw. I mean, they ended up playing Seattle. It's just what happened. Dallas destroyed Tampa Bay last night.
They did.
So
they did. It's the end of an era in Tampa Bay. Brady's gone.
Brady's going to be in Vegas next year.
Leftwich is going to take a head coaching job someplace else.
I don't think so.
Todd Bowles is going to be fired for sure. I mean, it's the end of an era in Tampa Bay,
sure,
but it could be the beginning of an era in San Francisco.
Oh,
I'm getting
segue.
so good at this game. So good at this game. If you think I'm getting good at this game, let me know in the comments below. And while you're down there, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get to enjoy this show as much as we enjoy making it. I swear I say that in my sleep now.
I'm sure you do. You just never say it
nonstop.
You just never say it at the beginning of the show when you're supposed to. And by the way, when you're in the comments, put down Dad was right, Kyle was wrong.
Don't do it. Please don't. We don't need that because he's going to frame that on the damn wall, and I don't need to see that.
It's going to be up there. It's going to be up there.
But speaking of a new era, you have a problem in San Francisco. A good problem.
Yes, but a definite problem.
But a definite problem where you have to make a decision. You traded up for someone.
So?
And you have the same situation the Patriots had with Drew Bledsoe, but in a very different way. Because that was, 3 years after Bledsoe signed that 10-year, $100 million contract?
Something like that.
It wasn't long.
This is the Wally Pipp. This is the Don Majkowski situation. Trey Lance got hurt. Purdy is your quarterback.
Well, Trey Lance got hurt. Jimmy Garoppolo came in and played really well. They already announced Garoppolo's not playing any more games. They're going with Purdy, which
they should.
They should. Good for them. Watch Brock Purdy get hurt. Jimmy Garoppolo come in and win a Super Bowl.
Could happen.
Situation. But Garoppolo's gone next year. Garoppolo's going someplace else. We said that last year. We did. But you have, it's a different situation now, though, because you have 3 quarterbacks now. It's not like you have 2. You have 3 quarterbacks now. Garoppolo's going to have a hard time finding a job because he's proven he can't stay healthy. He's going to be a backup somewhere.
Sure. Bring him to Green Bay.
I love him in Green Bay. That'd be awesome. I could see him in Tampa Bay.
I could see him in Minnesota. There's another quarterback I'd take over Kirk Cousins.
No.
All day long.
No.
All day long. But you got to go with Purdy. He has gotten you.
You spent a 3rd round or a number 3 overall pick on Trey Lance, who didn't do anything to raise his trade value.
He didn't do
You're going to get a 6th round pick for that kid, if that.
He was uncomfortable. He was Jordan Love-esque in his early years.
Correct.
He did not look good.
But this is a kid who didn't play his senior year. That was his first football real game action in 3 years?
You go with Purdy.
He looked really bad.
Yeah, he did.
He looked really bad before he got hurt. And he has a broken leg. So, I mean, that's not something easy to come back with.
San Francisco is not in the position they are if they kept Trey Lance. The football gods did them a favor. Purdy's your quarterback going forward.
Well, John Lynch is into voodoo or something. He has to be because he keeps getting lucky with situations. It's something. He got Garoppolo back. Trey Lance goes down. They start winning. They get McCaffrey. Like, that dude has to have, voodoo dolls.
He's got his own little
the bones in the bowl.
The Wicca.
Something.
A Wicca priestess is there helping him along.
Gotta be. I mean, he's selling his soul to the devil or something. He's getting luckier than lucky with these situations. But you have a guy in Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, rookie year, obviously has led your team to now a playoff victory in a big way, not against a very good team. It's a huge test.
It was a team in the playoffs that he beat.
A losing team in the playoffs.
I don't care.
A a team where nobody wanted that 7th spot. It's why you shouldn't have 7 teams in the playoffs, because it was such a shit show even getting the 7th seed into the playoffs.
Then you wouldn't have had the Trevor Lawrence game.
They were the division winners. They won the division. They were at home. They were in Jacksonville.
I know, but I mean, it just...
Nice try.
It was a good game.
It was a good game.
That was a good game.
It was a good game.
The Chargers completely...
Reeling you back in this time.
Poop the bed.
What do you do with Trey Lance?
Let him go.
You can't let him go.
Sure you can. Purdy is your quarterback. Would you right now, Trevor Lawrence,
Trevor Lawrence is my
all
answer
day
to
long.
that one.
Trey Lance or Purdy? Who do you take?
Right now?
Right now, going into next season.
Well, Purdy, because, Trey Lance is a broken leg.
If his leg is healthy going into next season, who are you taking?
I don't know.
I'm taking Purdy all day.
Trey Lance opens a lot more up for you than Brock Purdy does.
Brock Purdy wins games. If he beats Dallas, which he can very well beat Dallas, because the other thing is San Francisco's got a team that's loaded. But if he beats Dallas, he's your quarterback next year.
Yes.
And I think, I said it before, the winner of that game is in the Super Bowl.
He showed up against a lot of teams that weren't that hard to show up against. Now, he's shown up, which is great. And I love the bit between him and Kittle right now with the Iowa State rivalry. It makes me happy.
And you know what I liked? I knew Purdy was in charge when his first game.
Yeah.
Because there was a play coming in, a rookie quarterback, he called that timeout and went over there and said, we're changing this play.
Right.
I'm not liking what I'm seeing. He's a good quarterback. He's on the game.
There's even something I saw where he tried to pull the I can't hear you thing, and the timeout was called, and he said, rookies don't get to pull that shit. Like, no, you're going to run the play that I call.
No. And guess what? Purdy has made those plays.
He has. I mean, he had the greatest incompletion probably of the season, where he was scrambling and Ayuk just dropped it. I mean, that was extremely impressive.
That should have been a touchdown.
Purdy has control of that pocket. He
does.
Really does. He's very, very comfortable out there. He's playing like a guy that has nothing to lose. And I think that's the biggest difference between Trey Lance and Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy's Mr. Irrelevant. Nobody's expecting him to do anything.
House money.
And he's taken that and said, you know what? I do have nothing to lose. I'm not going to come out here nervous. I'm going to play the way I know how to play. Trey Lance was in his head from the word go.
Yeah.
He's like, I got to start winning now, because he knew he had a loaded team. He knew he had Garoppolo right behind him. And sure enough, he goes down on a bad injury. He was about to get benched anyways.
Purdy is your quarterback going forward. Maybe you keep Trey Lance as a backup. I don't. I just cut him. And you got to move forward.
I'm 100% with you on that one, but it's going to be an interesting decision for San Francisco.
So here's my question. Games this weekend. We'll close the show with this.
Yeah.
You got New York versus Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Who are you taking?
New York.
You got Dallas versus San Francisco.
I don't know.
Got to make a pick.
I know.
You're not pulling Tracy on me here. Got to make a pick. Sorry, Tracy.
I go San Francisco.
I do as well.
They have the longer rest. I got to go San Fran.
Cincinnati versus Buffalo.
Cincinnati.
Kansas City versus, doesn't matter.
Kansas City.
Kansas City. Who are they playing?
Jaguars.
Okay.
I'm changing my pick.
What? You're going to take the Jags?
I am going to take the Jags.
How about two Packer alum and Mike Holmgren tree members on that team?
Kansas City and Doug Peterson.
Yep. Kansas City and the Jags both have Mike Holmgren.
Mike Holmgren, he was not a part of Mike Holmgren's team. He was
absolutely part of his tree.
He never coached with Mike Holmgren.
No, he didn't coach with him, but he was on the team.
Player for him.
He was a player for him.
You have to be a coach under the person to be part of the tree.
Doug Peterson, watch every one of those coaches. He is part of the Holmgren tree.
He's part of Andy Reid's tree. So, I mean,
Which is part of the Holmgren tree.
By association, I guess.
That's what a tree is. It goes down branch by branch.
At some point, there's a new tree. The nut falls off and there's a new tree.
He's part of the Andy Reid tree, who is part of the Mike Holmgren tree.
Right.
Doug Peterson.
He was a part of the Mike Holmgren tree, and then he was the beautiful acorn that fell off and grew into his own tree.
Please put in the comments, that Peterson is, in fact, part of the extended Mike Holmgren tree.
No, he's a part of the same family. But he's not the same tree. It was Andy Reid was the beautiful nut that fell off the tree and built his own tree. It's a different tree.
Andy Reid should be coaching the Packers.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
That would be really, really cool.
Snap you out of it.
I you know what? I am going to take the Jaguars. I think Trevor Lawrence is in a good situation here. I think they're
a year away.
Deep down, I do too. Honestly, I don't want to see a game played in Atlanta.
I don't either. And that's my final thought. If you want to turn it over to me, I will do that.
Well, okay, make your picks and then we'll do your final thought. All right, okay. You have Dallas, San Francisco.
San Francisco.
You have the other two teams you mentioned.
Giants over the Eagles.
Taking Giants. So you and I both taking San Francisco and New York for an NFC championship. All right.
Would I be surprised if Dallas win? No, but I still
Kansas City, Jacksonville.
Kansas City all day long.
That's where you and I differ. And then you're taking, you have Cincinnati and Buffalo.
It's in Buffalo, correct?
Correct.
I am taking Buffalo at home.
So you and I differ in the AFC Championship. So you're excited to see a game played in Atlanta.
I'm not. I don't want to play there.
We've had a heck of a show here. We really have. I think it is time for our last word.
The AFC Championship game, under no circumstances, should be played in Atlanta. It should be played in Kansas City. Kansas City is the number one seed. They earned that. As you said last week, and very eloquently, I might add, the players made the choice not to play that game. You've got to live with your consequences, as is in life. You make your decisions, and you live with the results of those decisions. Those players made that call. They should be facing having to go to Kansas City, and they can win in Kansas City if they go there. It's not fair to Kansas City or its fans, and I still think the only reason the NFL is doing this is to test putting championship games in neutral sites instead of at the home team site. So I
agree.
It just drives me nuts. This game, I feel so bad for the Kansas City fans. Now they have to travel, book airfare, book hotels. It's an extra $2,000 at least.
Honestly, the biggest issue is that it is only under one situation where that happens, and that is if Kansas City and Buffalo both win. If Cincinnati beats Buffalo, the game's in Kansas City. So you're being extremely unfair to the fans because they have to make a plan last minute.
Right.
Where Buffalo fans know for a fact if they win and Kansas City wins,
they're already booking Atlanta.
They're either going to Kansas City or Atlanta.
It's just wrong. Especially with the fact you could have waited to make the decision until you knew the outcome of Damar Hamlin. You knew it by Wednesday or Thursday. He was okay.
He visited the Bills.
Yeah. So I still think that game should have been finished. As I said before, Chuck Hughes passed away. They finished the game. Stingley was paralyzed for life. They finished the game. It was an unfortunate situation, but it's still football. Injuries happen. Gage got hurt last night. You know what they did? He was taken off in a stretcher. They finished the game.
They did. It was a random situation early in the game. Listen, I made my point a lot last week on that one.
I just had to reinforce.
You made a choice. At the end of the day, you made a choice as players not to finish that game. The NFL allowed it, which they didn't have to do.
The NFL was trying to be too woke.
You sitting here and saying, well, okay, then we're going to move the game. I'm with you. That game should be in Kansas City no matter. If Kansas City wins, that game should be played in Kansas City.
Congratulations to Ryan Sandberg, the guy my son is named after, for getting a statue. Well-deserved and well overdue statue, actually.
It is. They're doing a lot with that outside of Wrigley now with the new development. You know I'm excited about it. I hope you guys are too. Thank you, as always, so much for watching. This couldn't be a show without all of you paying attention. We really appreciate it every single week. This has been Sports Talk with Dad.
Bye, everybody.